What's up, YouTube? Travis here with Travis Talks. Coming here to you live in the apartment. I live in Kentucky, so for those that don't know, wasn't born here, wasn't raised here, didn't even go to school here. I followed my girl here, and it's been pretty good. I've been here for 6 years, but at the end of this year we're gonna be moving up to Minnesota, so totally different state. We visited there. I got one friend up there, so we'll see how it goes. But she's going up there for school, and I'm just gonna trail with, and I'll find a job up there, or maybe I'll just bum around and paint Warhammer. And no, we'll see how it goes. But either way, that's exciting. Yesterday was my birthday, super exciting. So I'm 34 now. Damn, do I feel old as fuck. My mind doesn't feel like that, but my body does. So, either way, it was a good day yesterday, and let me show you what I got. Right. So my wife. Oh, oh. Deathcore Creek box. So this thing's heavy, but it comes with a whole bunch of goodies inside. Comes with the codex, which is freaking sweet. It comes with the cards, index cards. So that's down here is the index cards for every troop. So you can see their strength, toughness, special abilities, yada, 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 how to play them essentially. And then the point system is something you kind of have to look up because point systems change. So you can go on online, for example, to figure out what your points are for every member in your army, right? Every unit that's in your army. So I'm really excited to paint these guys up. I love the look of them. I really do. And the lore is the grimdark, and I love that shit. I love the look of fucking trench warfare and in the 41st millennium where they're still using barbed wire and trenches and they're still charging the lines like thousands of men at a time into hell while artillery's going off. So really excited. It's going to be a while till I get to even touch these things because I'm still working on my Black Legion. So, I could paint these guys up, and I'll definitely make a video about it. Why wouldn't I, right? So, but you can see, brand new box, sealed. My wife got it for me on my birthday. I freaking love her, and I'm gonna have a lot of fun with this. So, yay for that. Hopefully the codex doesn't go, oh, that's the last edition by the time I get to freaking paint and get everything together. But yeah, they're not like the strongest army, but you know what? I don't care. You don't play the guard because you want to win every engagement. No, you play because you want to, you want to throw bodies at the enemy, and you want to have tanks and artillery and just tactics, like strategy. And that's something I like. And although humans they're not the strongest in the galaxy, in the setting. They're really not. You take them up against a space marine. Unfortunately, there are stories of humans being able to best a space marine, sometimes multiple, but they're either very lucky, very, very skilled, okay, or they're pumped up and they're just beyond the tipping point of not being human anymore. If you look at Imperial assassins, for example, you take any of those up against a space marine, guess what? They're gonna body a space marine every time. So, but your average human or your grunt or your Deathcore Krieg characters, units, you just send them wave after wave because you just want to clog up and waste their ammo. It's all about attrition, and the sick side of me loves it. So I like World War One. I like World War Two. I don't want to say I love it, but I love learning about it, and I really respect those wars and the battles and the men that fought in them, because it's insane to think about how that happened and everything that went on. And I actually know quite a bit about history. didn't major in it, but I like to study it in my own time. So this is kind of a homage to the World War One German soldiers, you know. So either way, excuse me, you know, Austrians and Austria-Hungary. So much to talk about that. But besides that little update, let me talk about what else I got going on. So, geez Louise, I am right now finishing up all my human units for my Black Legion. And then in the box I got the Combat Patrol, the Chaos Space Marines, you know which one I'm talking about. I actually didn't get a specific unit, like I was missing a piece or maybe I threw it out, I don't know. But this guy's basically going to replace that unit because he has a very similar loadout, okay? Or his gear, war gear, whatever you want to call it. But, excuse me. Oh shit, man. Bad allergies, and I think I got a sinus infection, so it's that time of the year in the Midwest in America where no matter if you're inside or outside, you're gonna feel it. So, but anyway, this guy's not finished yet, but I just wanted to kind of showcase him real quick. Jeez Louise. All right, so if I can get him into focus. Gosh, that looks so bad. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, it's not really good to capture it. Either way, it's not really done either way, but this will be the guy that I add. He'll be the last one. This base is actually interesting. So this unit in particular came with a different box set that I had to buy separate because I just didn't like the look of some of the other Chaos human units that I could use as a proxy. And I found this Trader Imperial Guard unit. Here's what the front looks like. I don't have it attached on there yet. I already have it primed. I'm just slowly painting it. I'm doing it in sub-assemblies because I'm a freaking nerd and I like to actually paint both sides of the chainsaw, even though you don't get to see it. I personally, I like making them as realistic as possible. Sounds crazy, right? For a science fiction based game, but I like to paint them as real as possible. I like the dirt, I like the grime, I like the blood. I don't like clean units. You know, that's just not me. I like to see dents, scars. Like I want to see what's right for the 40K setting, which is endless war, right? So in the grim darkness of the 40K, you know, 41st millennium, there's only war. There's a lot to that. It says it in like the front of every book, and I am reading books, so I have a good lore library. Like I've read the Ultramarines Omnibus when I was deployed in Afghanistan. That was my first introduction to the 40K setting, and man, did I love it. I really did. I loved it because it captured the mentality of like someone who's in combat or they're having to go through grueling situations and they have to like overcome odds and they see people die or they see horrors of war. And Space Marines, yeah, they don't feel fear, you know, but they can still see it for what it is. And reading about that omnibus, I got a lot of respect for the Ultramarines as much as people give them crap. I give them crap, but not for those reasons, not just for memes. I give them crap for other reasons, mainly their gene flaw, right? So, oh, but the Ultramarines are perfect. They can't do any wrong. Come to find out, their gene flaw is bureaucracy. And like disunity, splitting themselves up almost too much. You know, like, I could go into Rubaut Guilliman when he wrote the Codex Astartes after the Horus Heresy. He, you know, they were on the fighting end of getting them out of there, so It was called the Indominus Crusade. Forgive me if I'm wrong. But they were pushing the traders out as they had a failure on Terra, the home world, or Earth as we know it. And Horus and his forces, they failed for multiple reasons. And what they did was they split up too. They were united under the banner. They were going to go up against the Imperium of Man and up against the Emperor for many reasons that I can kind of understand. That's why I chose Chaos Space Marines. So I like playing the bad guys too. You know, as much as like, well, Deathcore Krieg, they're the good guys. Not really. Even other Imperial soldiers are like, when they see these guys come on the battlefield or they're deploying, they don't like them for many reasons, right? So they're really good at what they do, and they do their damnedest to outperform a lot of other units. But it's the way that they do it is what's so shocking. So I could go into that a lot more. If you're into 40K, Games Workshop's Warhammer 40,000, you're into that universe, you're into that lore. If you're watching this video, or if you like painting minis and you dabble in the lore a little bit, like I went lore first, and I still don't know everything. Right now, I just kind of read whatever I want, but I'm reading the Night Lord's Omnibus right now. So Ave Dominus Nox. It's like 800 pages, but it's a good read. It's a good read. And then before that, I read the Gene Father. So that's more to catch me up on what's going on in the current setting. And it's pitting, Fabius Bile, the the madman, if you will. Really, really misunderstood for a lot of good reasons, though. He's not a good guy, even though he thinks he is, right? But him being pitted up against, oh my gosh. Lord forgive me, I'm blanking. Oh, you're going to yell at me so hard right now. The Belisarius Call. All right, Belisarius Call. And there's so much about him. And I think he might be, like Belisarius Call might be one of my favorite characters in the Warhammer setting. Over any Primarch. By far. I say that now, right? But I really like him. And what I like about him is just his intellect, his humor. I love his humor. I love his style. And it's like he's the mad scientist, but he is a good guy. He is a good guy. And he's seen a lot of shit, right? So he's been alive for well over 10,000 years. And it's not even a single individual anymore, because the person that was Belisarius Cawl, as we know him as an entity, he's actually a mixture of other scientists that he absorbed into a consciousness that is, as we know him, at Belisarius Cawl. So, was he Archmagos of the Mechanicus? So, the good guys. And Belisarius Cawl isn't your normal... I mean, some people could say he's a monster. From what I read, he's not. Because he even jokes about when him and Fabius Bile, you want to call him Fabulous Bill, because I watch a lot of British people and they call him like Fabulous Bill. It's a joke, but it's Fabius Bile. They finally meet in the book in Gene Father, and he's talking to a holograph of Fabius Bile. But anyway, they're talking in person. This is the first time they've actually connected and been able to like have a direct communication to each other, even though it's one-sided. Meaning Belisarius Cawl is actually there. But it's like Belisarius Cawl is calling, Fabius Bile a monster. And he's like, you call yourself doing things for humanity, and you're trying to, beat chaos and you're trying to do it for science, and you're trying to, improve our odds of humanity surviving the horrors of what's going on, because they're surrounded by horrors, the orcs, the Tyranids, the Necrons. So, it's a big order, but they meet, and Fabius Bile's trying to get him on his side, right? Or just an understanding of each other. Like, you're a scientist, I'm a scientist, we're both really intelligent, we've both been around for millennia, I don't think they're the same age, but like Fabius Bile's a little bit younger than him, but not by much. But he's seen him in human form. So before he was a machine, as we know him, and as this entity of Belisarius Cawl, Fabius Bile was one of the original apothecaries for the Emperor's Children's legion, or whatever was left of them, in order to, be an apothecary and then try to fix their gene flaws. And there's so much about that, but it's just interesting when they met face to face, and like they don't like each other in a way, but they respect, like, Fabius Bile respects Belisarius Cawl a lot more. Belisarius Cawl is like, I want nothing to do with you, bro. You are nothing but bad news, and I've known about your deeds and your horrible things that you do to further humanity, and all your experiments and nasty stuff that even the Dark Eldar are impressed. And, like, Slaanesh will look at him and be like, that's a really nasty son of a bitch right there, But he calls him a monster, and then Fabius Bile's like, well, look at you. You call yourself, the best thing for humanity, but you look like a monster. You got, he's not even in human form. He's a machine with all these, like, freaking mechadendrite things, and he's got, like, he needs, like, all this combat armor to wear, but if he doesn't have it, he's, like, super thin, and his organs are basically non-existent. He only has very few fleshy bits because he's not allowed to be full AI. But it's just interesting that they have that conversation, and I could kind of see it Fabius Bile's way. And in the end, I'm not going to spoil it, I like the ending. It's a good book. I would read it. If you like the laugh, Guy Haley did a really good job. It's a fun, quick read. It's not a super thick book, but if you don't understand the 40K setting or the universe, it's going to be really confusing. So I wouldn't recommend it as your first book. No. Either way, let me turn on my my light here so you can see what I'm doing. A little bit better, right? Super cool. So this is my workstation, and I think I'll take the phone and maybe I'll see if I can show you how I do this. I know I showed a little bit about the paints, so all my different paints. I know I talked about that. I talked about my brushes, and just this is kind of an update of what I'm working on and some tips and tricks that I learned, and I know other people talk about it, but I want to talk about it too. I like telling people what I learn. I like teaching. So take a little breath here, drink my Coke Zero. My throat's really dry again from these damn allergies, but there's a bug going around, but I'm on the tail end of it, so I was really sick a while ago. Anyway, so these are pauldrons for Space Marines. And again, really hard to see these in focus because that's okay. But these are for the bad guys, so the Black Legion. What I do, instead of assembling my Space Marines all together, like some people, what they do is they just put them together like this, and then they prime it, and then they paint it as is. I have learned to kind of look at the mini, look at the unit, and be like on the sprue, of course, or on the box, and I would say, if I were to put this together, would I be able to get everything that I would like to get with detail? So if I were to use a detail brush, much like this little needle guy here, Royal and Lanicle, a very good brand for just a cheap brush, if you will. It's not like a dollar store thing, but this is I'm sorry. Wish it would say it's like gauge or whatever. It's a linear brush, and I do see a number. I want to say it's a 1. Yeah, it's a 1. So it gets a little worn out when you use it with your fingers from painting. Sometimes I even paint like this. But anyway, back to my point of what I learned is, do I want to do it all together? It depends on speed. It depends on a couple things, like how fast you want to put your army together, how experienced are you. But then I look at detail. I'm a detail-oriented person, and I say, well, if I put this guy together and I go to prime him and paint him, it's going to be really hard to get the reverse end of this chain sword. Even though other people aren't going to see it, it's just me. So, and another thing I learned with Space Marines is I do it in sub-assemblies. So I'll put him together as much as I think it makes sense to where I can still get to everything, but I won't do his arms yet. His jump pack is going to be separate as well. So this is called sub-assembly painting. And then here's his head. And then I just have a little bit of putty on the end. It's like a sticky tack. It's more of a sticky tack, like you put it to the wall, hang up posters. So I use that because you can clean it up real easy by itself, like with itself. So I also have it here inside where you would normally prime this thing. I don't want to prime it where I would glue everything. So I clip it, I sand it, I clean up the mold lines as best as I can. And then I put the putty on places, like I look at it, I study it, and I say, okay, well, I don't want to prime on this. I don't want to prime because I want to glue this later on. I want to assemble the minis together appropriately. So I'll be very careful not to mix and match as best I can. It's okay if you do, like you don't have to use the same helmet, but it's just the war gear will matter. And then you want to make sure it fits right, because if you try to put something like this on here, it's not going to work, right? So just be careful with that when you're doing sub-assemblies, and be methodical about it and have a way to organize things. So like for me, what I use when I'm doing sub-assemblies is I will decide which units I want to build, and I will do them completely until they're done. So I'll grab a batch unit. So all these humans, right? I batch them together, meaning I decide how I want to assemble them. I prime them all together, and then I work on them until I'm done. I don't do anything else until these guys are done, because I don't want to take on too much, and then you got shit all over the place, and then you might walk by and bump it, and you break something. Like, don't do that to yourself. I like to do it myself. I do it in batches. So I decided to do pauldrons, right? So these are a batch of pauldrons, but I'm not going to start anything new. I'm not going to prime anything. I'm not going to clip anything out until these things are done. Once these are done, then I go to my box here, and this is how I organize sub-assemblies for now. But each one of these little nooks has, inside of it, I have the base, and I have the unit in particular with all of its war gear. So I know for a fact, right? So the guy I'm working on right now, I know for a fact this is his weapon system. Okay? Why do I know that? Because everybody else in here has a weapon system. This is the only box with no guy inside of it, i.e. this is the weapon system that goes to that guy there. Okay? So this has not been primed yet. I could have, but I didn't yet. So mainly because I already clipped him out, and I just wanted to try Space Marine. I should have primed him. And this is where I learned it, because I just wanted to do them all at once, or do them like a larger batch, and I got carried away. And I was working on my humans and starting on Space Marines, and I shouldn't have done that, because then I got this mess right here. And then I was going back and forth on what I want to do, what I don't want to do. And then I was mixing up paints and like, oh, well, I'm doing this in all black. Oh, but humans don't use all black. Shit. Well, I can't use the wet palette as much because blah, blah, blah. So it's what works for me. But here's a great example of a sub-assembly I'm still working on. So there's that guy, right, with no arms. Here's another one. This one, I did decide to put the base on. I don't always do this. The only reason why is because I know for a fact I can get a brush in this little area and I don't have to worry about like, oh, I can't get that angle. Oh, darn. No, I can get that angle with this on. And then I have this little tool right here to help me do it. Someone's backing up a big old truck out there. But I can use this to help me get those angles when I want to paint it rather than just holding onto the base, because I have a firm grip on this and I can twist it and it stays consistent. I'm not going to be shaking as much, especially when you're painting. I also keep this table up very high, but you know, I'm able to control, and then you can kind of, you know, while you're painting, I even like, I'll touch my fingers together and then I'm able to just very gently paint areas. And then, you know, I'm a right-handed guy, but I'm just showing you for example, right? So if I were to paint this guy as an example, like I would make sure the tip is good and everything. It's wet right now, it's kind of dry, but you know, I would make sure it's good. Sometimes you could lick it, whatever, dip it in your little paint can. And then that's when I like put my elbows right on this desk. It's at the perfect height. I control my breathing. I choose my spot where I want to start. And then I just start painting right in there. Either they're small or there's, you know, small little details. Or if I want to do more of a larger sweep with my brush, I choose a different brush. And that's something I've learned over time is like, you know, you want to use the smallest brush because you think like, oh, well, I'm painting a really small thing, so I need to use, like, here's a freaking super tiny brush. Like, oh my gosh, it's very tiny. It's like a needle. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, a 5-0 brush. You don't want to use this to paint his freaking shoes. You're going to take forever and it's not going to look right. You're going to have weird lines and you're going to be frustrated, and then you're going to ruin your brush because you're not using it for what it's intended for. Sorry if I'm looking over here. It's just, for whatever reason, I keep staring at myself while I'm talking. But so like for me, if I'm painting and I want to get detail, like with this brush, this is a tiny brush. I would use this on eyes. Okay, like let's say the Space Marine's helmet. He has very small eyes. Yeah, I paint that shit. So I could put it on a stick, or maybe it would be on him, you know, by then. Maybe it would be attached to his body. Probably make it a lot easier, but like I could paint like this too. And I would just, again, put my elbows up on here, make sure it's wet, lick it, you know, get a little bit of paint on it, and I just check the brush. I want to make sure it's not pooling on the end, because then you'll glob it on there. So some guys, what they do is they just take it and they just kind of just run a line on their skin, because your skin will absorb a majority of it, but there'll still be paint in the reservoir of the brush in the belly, to where you can still do that fine detail without overdoing it. So just like this is how I would do the eyes. You know, you could do a big stroke. Like sometimes I just do a single dot. That's it, you know, or just a one like that. So like for this one, I look really breathe out on the exhale. So it's an old sniper trick. It's how they steady their shot. It's funny, now I'm going on a tangent, but I remember watching like, or playing video games, and the sniper would do this thing where he's like, and you'd see they'd feel the heartbeat, and then he'd shoot to steady it. You know, and then when I went to Marine Corps boot camp, or you learn how to shoot, you learn you're actually supposed to shoot on the exhale, because that's when your body's at the steadiest. So if anybody didn't know that, it's a sniper technique, a shooting technique. The Marines use it. If you need to do a well-placed aim shot, Get into a breathing pattern. Clear your mind. Close your eyes, open them. Bang. You pull that trigger. That's how you get a clean shot. When everything goes quiet around you, that's when you take the shot, right? If you're not ready, you're freaking shaking, you're sweating, you're not thinking right, don't take the shot, right? Unless if you have to. If you gotta shoot, you gotta shoot. But I'm relating it to 40K here, but I think in archery you hold and then you let go of the bow. So, but that's archery. That's like with longbow because they're really powerful. Maybe things have changed, but that's how I understand it. But like with painting eyes, again, I'll just dip it in water. I'll lick it so that way it's not too wet. But it's like wet, but it's not dripping. Because if you do this, see that? Right there? Maybe you don't see it again, but there is water on here. And if you get that on your dude, that water drop, that'll just pool it. Unless if you're going for that pooling look, which people can do that with fire or certain effects, it's good to have it really wet like that. But like in my instance, I usually keep them pretty like moderately dry, and just using my tongue like that and the saliva helps it keep it like a fine tip. And then you just carefully dip it in your paint, and then I just check it, make sure it's good, it's even, it's not like droopy on one side or whatever. And then when I'm ready, I'll just like take the tip and just brush it on my finger if I have any excess. Else I'll just go right in there. And I wish you could see my hands. Just like that. Okay. And if I make any mistakes, it's okay. I would recommend everybody to get these, not your standard Q-tips. Get these. These are tiny. These are specifically made for miniatures. I mean, you could do it with other stuff, but like they're firm. They're not soft. And the thing I hate about using other Q-tips or cheap ones is when you use them, that the little fibers just get all over your shit. Especially if you have guys with spikes and stuff, like, oh my God, you'll get cotton all over it. And then your fingers, if you're really dry, like I got dry hands, the cotton fibers get all over my hands and it drives me nuts. Or it gets on your guy while you're painting. So just remove that. And but that's just an example of how I paint with these, okay? So that's another little tip for you, is understanding brushes and what they're used for and how to best use them, because a brush might look the same as another brush. It's not the same. If it's a synthetic or a natural hair, performs very differently, And then you got to look at, what is it meant for? Like what mediums? Is it for acrylic? Is it for painting on metal? Is it for painting on canvas? Is it made for painting on fiber? So maybe you want to paint like a t-shirt or, this is ink printed, but I'm just saying, for example, you want to like paint your hat. Hey, go Cubs. Then this is an example of like, you'd want to use that paintbrush rather than like something like this, which is not, this is an acrylic brush. It's meant for acrylics. It has other uses too, but like check the bag before you buy them, because a paintbrush ain't a paintbrush. Like one paintbrush is not the same as another paintbrush. And I learned that lesson. And then just because it says it's good doesn't mean you'll do good with it. Just because pros use it doesn't mean you're going to do really good with it, because those guys have honed it over years and they like what they like. And if they recommend something to you, you can get that and you'll be trash with it. Or maybe you'll use it and you'll get better. And then another thing, oh my gosh. So you don't want to use the same, so there's different types of brushes, like I said, synthetics, right? But there's different like grades of synthetic brushes, where some are like, to me, really freaking good. They're not going to fray as much. They're not going to curl on the tip. They're going to take the paint better. They're going to hold water maybe a little bit better, or they're just going to do what you really want them to do. And like this, Lungford nickel, these cheap ones are not even close to like these Curate color ones. I freaking love these things, man. These are badass. I have other brushes too, but this is like a 10/0, whatever that means. But it's a lot thicker in the handle compared to this one. And the tip is obviously a lot different, but it's the type of synthetic, like whatever they use is just different. This one's really soft, but like this one is just, it mimics hair, like natural hair very well. And I just like it for like how you can hold it. And to me, it just paints better, in my opinion, right? So, I mean, you could use this and paint your entire army with this from start to finish if you really wanted to. You could prime with this. You could base it with this. You could layer with this. You could do detail work with this. You could do all of it with this brush. But for me, I select what brushes. I will use like 10 different brushes to paint one guy. I choose it. There's no manual for this, not that I'm aware of. But sorry if this is a long video, but it's just some things to think about, and then little tools like this, and you'll learn a lot as you go. But I really like this, and it's a great hobby, and I got a little bit of positive feedback on this, people liking this type of video and how wholesome it is, like no politics, no bullshit. And, you know, I'm gonna keep doing this, and I'm having fun doing it. So that's all I got. Like, comment, or subscribe if you want to. I don't believe in ads. I'm not gonna show anything. I'm not, you know, a company sponsor or anything like that. I'm just giving you guys the real down dirty, and I'm an authentic person. I will not lie to you. I will tell you the freaking truth, you know, unless if someone's paying me millions of dollars. I'm not there, dude. I'm not a paid spokesperson, right? But I'm just a guy. But I will keep myself as authentic, as super genuine, and I will give you my honest opinion until the day I die. I promise you that. If I don't like something, I'll say I don't like it. If I love something, I'll tell you I love it. And then I'll tell you why. How's that? So, all right, everyone, that's all I got. Enjoy your weekend. And the Derby's going tonight, and then Cubs are playing tonight, so go Cubs, let's go. We're going to destroy Milwaukee again. But that's all I got. Cheers, guys. Thanks, and until next time.